I think one of the hardest questions we ask ourselves, and the one everyone around us are also contemplating, is the notion about should we or should we not be too hard on ourselves when it comes to pursuing our goals and desires. You see, we all know that we're not in this forever, and in this day of age, we are very well known to literally waste most of our precious and non-refundable time on needless, pointless, and unproductive things that gets us nowhere closer to our goals and desires. We voraciously visualize the moments of accomplishments and the moments where we get to reap the fruits of our labor, and without a doubt, it incentivizes us to start moving and doing. However, most of us get too complacent too quickly in our confidence that we start to let our natural instincts to take the path of least resistance or let other distractions take over once again and slowly lead us to eventual delays, procrastinations, and inactions once again that completely stall our progress. Comfort and leisure is the main enemy of ambition and progress. Nothing kills our urge to pursue than the narrative to just quote-unquote take it easy, because it tells our mental framework to constantly slow down and diminish the momentum of our immersion and advancement in our work. And if you do not put a barrier on it, it will eventually lead you back towards the same degenerative state that you spent too much time and energy getting out of initially. The feeling that we have endless amount of time to complete our work has a very insidious and debilitating effect on our minds. It cripples their ability to allow us to properly immerse ourselves in our work and shift into a higher echelon of problem-solving ingenuity. And of course, it inevitably will slacken your inducement in wanting to take constant, habitual, and productive actions, as there is absolutely nothing to worry about or being taken seriously for us to require to act upon. Without the presence of some form of stress, pressure, or a sense of urgency, you will revert back to your selfish nature of the idling lethargic, just endlessly waiting and wondering while indulging in cheap pleasures. You need to constantly create arbitrary deadlines and stakes in order to intensely urge you to keep the momentum going. These deadlines and stakes act as the innate, necessary, and urgent need to solve a problem or a crisis of our circumstances. Utilizing pressure, stress, and intensity the right way, they can make us feel unusually energized and extremely focused as our minds become completely absorbed in the tasks that are needed to be completed or performed. Faced with a ticking time bomb to complete a task, it puts us almost in survival mode, as our minds will innately have no other choice but to crank up to higher gears in order to help us perform and solve the problem in front of us. Our creativity, assertiveness, decisiveness, and sense of responsibility will be significantly amplified as we become entirely absorbed into one very vivid priority. Manufacture personally intense deadlines and stakes to incentivize you to perform as the pressure to succeed tries to eat away at you. It's like creating an annoying enemy that you have no choice but to go through in order to move on to the next stage. This is actually one very good way to spike up your competitive side. If the stakes and deadlines are too low and long, you will become indolent and slothful, waiting until they are mentally intense and demanding enough to start your work. A fine example would be for those of you who always wait until the last 48 hours to the deadline of your college assignments before you actually start doing them. And if the stakes and deadlines are too high and short, you will try to do too much things at the same time, become overwhelmed, and eventually forego all plans to even consider doing your work. In today's world of ineptness towards handling stressful situations, we've become suspensefully afraid of pressure and the constant ever so increasing demands and challenges from our work that comes as we become more proficient in it. The main reason for this fear is either because of our desperate reluctance to either lose our credibility and reputation, ruin further of what little credibility and reputation we already lack, or stain the credibility and reputation that we've already arduously accomplished, accumulated, and built through our work all this time. Similar to the fear of failure, we're afraid to make minute slip-ups that can become critically damaging to our work. Especially as the expectations and standards become higher, the doubtful effect of mistakes is also amplified. Now, whatever particular reasons you gentlemen have in not being able to handle stress and pressure when it comes to work, it is very important to know and acknowledge that it will happen to you one way or the other as you climb up the social and economic ladder. You have to utilize those anxious and nervous feelings of intense riskiness to your advantage. And the only way to do that is to bring yourself to enjoy the strenuous and demanding process of figuring things out and getting things done. Bringing your mind to work extensively through getting imminently creative, discovering shortcuts, outsourcing help, and being more objectively efficient are all crucial elements of effectively working under pressure. You will often feel stuck in the mud or being held stationary due to a troublesome roadblock that hinders you from making progress, and at the same time requires you to measure your situation in order to eventually determine a meaningful and plausible solution. It is undeniably stressful and unbearably agitative initially, but you have to become connectively obsessed to your work to the point where you are aggressive and assertive enough to try out every means possible to come up with the most definitive answer to your problem. Do not put your entire focus on the significance or the lackluster magnitude of the metaphoric effect on how the eventual outcome or results will make you feel in the end. This is what makes you more emotionally biased rather than objectively biased when you're working. Do not obsess over how exactly the outcome would look like or feel like for you eventually. Focus more instead on compartmentalizing the problems you are facing and figuring out how to gradually chip away those roadblocks so that your work can continue to progress. Pay more attention on the work and trying to solve the problems at hand, not on how the results will manifest themselves. The results and outcomes can wait on the sidelines to be assessed and modified later on. What matters most is getting your work to advance first. This is how you work under pressure. Thank you for watching.